turn it off.
If you guys look around here, you're gonna see how long its trail is. And in Costa Rica we call them sompopas.
Sompopas?
Sompopas, yep. Very long name for this little guy. So you gotta be careful when approaching a tree like this. Over here we have mentioned yesterday in Monteverde. If you guys.
I mean, 1, 2, 3. That's a good picture, too. When you are done, and you really had to rest, don't you cry no more. Best part of our trip to the embassy.
To the embassy?
Yeah.
The pretty brick walkway up to the front entrance, I thought that was really cool. Meeting the intern from Plymouth, that was cool. Actually, I think the thing that really impressed me about the embassy is the way you guys handled yourselves in front of these guys, these professionals. These guys are the political officers and economic officers and of the Costa Rican embassy. They're the ones that are setting and working all the politics between the two countries, and yet you saw right through them instantly. And that, to me, was the best part, just watching that.
So what does it take to be a foreign official?
Apparently, very little. The one guy was, a hotel manager? And the other guy had a degree in some weird profession, philosophy or something. But none of them had any background in it. What does it take? The willingness to step out and do it. But it certainly doesn't apparently require much ability to persuade or debate or even sometimes think well.
Would you like to sing part of our trip song for us?
Would I like to?
Yes.
Not a lot. Will I?
This is for posterity.
No, for posterity. You realize during this whole thing that the microphone is kind of turned around backwards. That might have contributed somehow a little bit to the sound issues, but that's okay because we're in a closed environment and everything is good. You've heard it already, the other tapes? The other parts of the tape? Are they okay sound-wise?
I don't know how to rewind.
Oh, okay, I'll show you that in a second. I'd hate to have you redo them, but we're in a closed spot, so it should be fine. At any rate, I'm singing part of Boston.
Mm-hmm. No, not part of Boston, Kansas.
Part of Kansas, yes. Carry on my wayward son. There'll be, I can't remember the words.
There'll be peace when you are gone.
There'll be peace when you're gone.
Lay your
weary head to rest. Don't you cry no
It's
more.
really sad that you don't know that.
Yeah, the second line I can't remember.
Alright, tell us about some of the highlights of the trip.
Highlights of the trip. You laughing. But wait, that happened the entire trip. See, like now. Yeah, hold it together because you're supposed to be objective. Let's just see. Highlights of the trip. Watching Jeff do the machete. Work the machete. He was a maniac. As Nicole said, portrait of a serial killer in the making. That was cool. Let's see. Seeing Lizzie and Max hold up the lamb or the sheep. That was cool. Little goats. Goats, I think they were. They had. That was cute. I liked all of Finca La Flor. The zip lines were a riot, and watching Emily swallow hard at some of those things. Let's see. A highlight for me was making sure that Colleen got here on Tuesday. That was really cool. I was glad she could get here, and I was worried for her for that.
What do you think of Max getting hit by lightning?
It was a tragedy. It was truly, it broke me up. But I was thrilled to his being saved, and I'm moved by the miracle of nature, how it all came together. It was just one of those things that's just beyond description. I'm sure there'll be an NBC movie for it. This is the first time I have taken students into what has to be described as a developing nation. And I know you guys saw some things that were absolutely incredible, that were fun, but you also saw some pretty incredible poverty and some circumstances and things that were very uncomfortable. You lived a few days in a circumstance that wasn't altogether comfortable, and I know you were all imagining what it must be like to continually live that. That, I think, is the experience that has made this trip the most valuable. And we could have gone to Paris, we could have gone to Ireland, we could have gone to those places and just had a good time. But I think there was something about this experience that has done two things, I hope. One is that you guys can all now start traveling, looking around the world, seeing some things, and you're not afraid to do it, which I think is going to be cool. The second thing is that we get back to the States, and I think we're going to have a different appreciation for what we have and what we take from other countries in order to get what we have.
Do you want to say anything about CAFTA?
CAFTA. Dominican Republic caved in just the other day, I understand, and they've also signed. It shouldn't surprise us. It's one of dozens and dozens of treaties that are executed by our administration and by numerous governments do these sorts of things all the time without people knowing the impact. And personally, I have not seen any evidence of the safety net that we've talked about for those lost jobs, for the impact on these economies. You didn't have a chance to go to the Thursday forum, but to listen to the people directly and their fears of it, many of the fears were irrational. They didn't have all the information. Many of the interpretations weren't accurate of the treaty, but many of them were. They've seen the same pattern over and over and over again, where promises of economic prosperity turn into despair or loss, whether it's in India, whether it's in Singapore, whether it's in Colombia, whether it's here. And they're going to sneak CAFTA in. Bush is not going to attempt to get it past the House until after the election. I wonder why. It's sneaky, and our public doesn't know about it, and that's too bad.
What do you think the most effective way is to educate people on CAFTA and to get people to speak out against it, to educate people, because really no one back home knows about it at all.
Right. And the problem is, of course, we don't have a media that shows any interest in it, because any topic which is at all complicated, they can't cover. It's just too much, and people won't watch the TV, they won't read the newspaper article, they don't know how to read it, they don't care to. You have a very small population that's trying to keep track of a ton of issues, and they can't cover them all either. We didn't talk at all about migrant labor in California. We didn't talk at all about deforestation in Oregon. They're telling me to shut up. But we didn't talk about any of those things. But there's only a few people that can keep track of it.
And it's really too bad. I know that for NAFTA there were a lot of anti-NAFTA protests, but I haven't seen any anti-CAFTA marches yet or anything like that.
No, because again, like you say, nobody knows about it.
The best part of the trip to the embassy was being able to make fun of the guy in the blue shirt afterwards for what he was saying.
Can you tell us a little bit of what he said?
He basically patronized all of us and said, just let's put it out on the table, let's tell it how it is, and he was a real prick, so it was fun to make fun of him.
Alright, what do you think of CAFTA?
Of CAFTA? I'm against CAFTA because the privatization of the companies and everything, it's trying to just make way for U.S. companies to come in and take over. And when the Costa Ricans are specialized so much that, you know, they can't have any other industry, if our economy goes down, then they're completely screwed. Carry on, my wayward son. There'll be peace when you are done. Lay your weary head to rest. Don't you cry no more.
Very good.
Let's see. I'll be naughtin'. Okay, here's another one. Oh my god! You got struck by lightning? So Stephanie and Max and Joel and I, we went down and we were going to kind of scale the rocks along the beach. And it was a little too dangerous, so we came back. But when we came back, we made up the story about how Stephanie had slipped, and then as Max was slipping, he was about to hit his head on a rock, and there was nothing he could do. And then this lightning bolt came down and pulverized the rock to a powder, and the powder broke Max's fall, but his head caught on fire, his hair. But luckily the downpour was so heavy that it put it out before the whale came.
And she actually believed that?
She did. She believed it all the way up until we started cracking up after she asked, "You were almost struck by lightning? Oh my god!"
Alright, well tell us some of the highlights of the trip.
The horseback riding was really awesome, except when we went through the river and got soaked. And the trip along the beach at night when we went hiking through the water, and then the tide came in because Stephanie was there. And every time Stephanie's there, the tide comes in. And then basically all the stuff when we were just hanging out in the rooms together, and like we got to know each other, because I didn't know a lot of the people on this trip before now, and now I really do.
Did you like Mr. Chisnell better when he was all rugged looking? Or
I did. I think he looks better as a rugged woodsman.
How many times did we have to help this whole deal out? I mean, how many nights in a row?
I think the goal of the trip was to get them together. So, you know, it was practically every night when we were in Punta Leona.
Now, is Crizzy some sort of magical creature? I mean, what is it? What is Crizzy?
Crizzy is Chris Riggs, a.k.a. Wranglin' Riggs, and Lizzie Kuzinski, a.k.a. Leslie Kuzinski. And when you put them together, it's like Benifer, except they're Crizzy. And so they finally got together.
What was the best part of Punta Leona?
The best part of Punta Leona? Leaving.
What was the best part of our trip to the embassy?
The fact that you guys totally knew more than they did, and I got a kick out of the fact that they were proud that they had no background or schooling in international policy, and were telling you guys how they had majored in business and restaurant management and all sorts of things, and that as high schoolers you had so much more knowledge than they did, and they were squirming in their seats as they were being asked questions, and that was really cool to watch you guys doing that. I think the highlights of the trip were, I really liked interacting with the local people. So when we were at Finca La Flor, being able to communicate without speaking Spanish was really cool. And I spent some time talking with Alan, and it was cool that we could understand each other, even though he didn't speak English and I didn't speak Spanish. The zip lines were definitely an adrenaline rush, and so cool to be able to see the rainforest from that point of view. Being a science person, I wanted to go to the rainforest for a really long time, so that was really cool. But I think those two things have been my favorite.
So who's been the biggest chigger on this trip so far?
Chisnell. If I have to hear another one of his jokes, bad.
He's up for the chigger count. Is there anyone you'd like to imitate?
This was my first international trip, and it was really cool to come to some place like this and to be able to see some of the culture firsthand and not from a tourist point of view. And it's really inspired me to travel, whether it be again with a group like this as a chaperone or on my own or with my friends. So I'm really looking forward to going to different places and seeing them in the future. But this group of students is absolutely amazing, and I think that everyone here is going to just do awesome things, and this was just a first step in all of it. So,
what was that again?
Sing part of our trip song.
I forgot it.
You just pressured Jen into doing it.
No, seriously, like the camera makes you go blank.
Do you have anything to say about yourself, in defense of the whole Max being almost struck by lightning bit?
No. Stop looking at me.
Can you reenact exactly what you said at that point?
No. I was like, oh no, you almost got struck by lightning? Are you serious?
What's the best part of our trip to the embassy?
It had to be that one guy who was a major in hotel management, was it? Let's tell it like it is. They should grow pineapples because that's what they're good at. That's my favorite part. He was a chigger.
Straight up chigger?
He was a straight up chigger, let me tell you. He's the biggest chigger I've ever seen. Let's call it what it really is. It's NAFTA version 2.0, and it was drafted specifically to screw Latin American countries. All it does is make the U.S. richer and Latin America poorer. It's, really bad. Don't you cry no more.
Can you do part of the guitar solo for us?
Dun, 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 dun. Please put your tray tables in their full upright position. We'll be traveling at an altitude of 37,000 feet today. This flight will be approximately 3 hours and 43 minutes long. There's no smoking on this flight. Any attempt to disable the smoke detectors in the laboratories is a federal offense, punishable by death. But anyways, on with this letter. For those who don't know, we wrote this postcard to Shorky with two monkeys screaming at each other on the front. So we thought it was fitting.
Is that symbolic of anything?
It might be. If you saw the picture, you might think of some symbols in there. But anyways, here's what the postcard says. It goes, "Hola, Senor Shorky. We're having a swell time in Costa Rica. Wish you were here to help us out with our volunteer work. Who knew machetes could be so fun? It hasn't all been hard work, though. We've all developed a taste for the Imperial. Most of the people are friendly, but the chiggers are horrible. Adios. See you in the fall. Pura vida." There's been so much stuff that I've done on this trip that I would never get to do at home, like sea kayaking and all that horseback riding, plus the zip line. That was great. The zip line was awesome. I think every activity we've done on this trip has been really great, and I've enjoyed it all.
Alright, so you and Riggs have wrangled yourself a date. What do you want to say about that?
Well, let's just say that, the chigger finally had guts to ask me out. No, it's been coming for a long time, I assume. And, it's nice that it happened in Costa Rica. It's a nice place to be asked out, I'd say.
Yeah, it's Stalag Leona, no doubt.
Yeah, it's Stalag Leona, but they don't own the beach, so that was where we were, and so we weren't really on Punta Leona property. So, it was nice.
The, waterfall experience briefly.
Oh, good. I was hoping that someone would talk about that.
Okay. So we decided to go for this hike to see the waterfall, and Joel and Stephanie were leading us. Stop listening! And, so they were leading us to the waterfall. We got to it, and they'd heard about this other path we could take off of the waterfall that was like a different route back, so we wouldn't have to backtrack down the same path. So we decided to look for it. So, gross. Okay, so we start going down the river, wading down the river a little bit, and sliding down our butt. We all ended up going swimming in the river in our clothes. We walked for probably, a pretty fair distance, like at least a third of a mile probably down the river. and almost fell a few times. We got to the end of not the end of the road, but there's this other waterfall. We couldn't go down anymore, so we veer off into the woods and find there's no trail, so we have to backtrack because it's getting dark by that point. So we had to climb back up the entire waterfall and climb up some vines, George of the Jungle style. I don't know, Joel looks pretty hot swinging from a vine. Yeah, that was about the story. Then we went, saw the view, but it was all foggy. Carry on my wayward son, there'll be peace when you are done. Lay your weary head to rest. Don't you cry no more.
Alright, will you sing part of our trip song for us? Please?
I won't sing it.
Will you recite it like a poem?
I'll recite it like a poem.
Okay.
Let's see. Which part should I do?
Everyone else has done the chorus. You might want to do something different.
Let's see. Carry on, you will always remember. Nothing equals the splendor. Now your life is no longer empty. Only heaven, surely heaven waits for you.
That was beautiful.
Thank you.
What have some of the highlights of the trip been?
Everything. Yeah. Horseback riding, kayaking, zip lines, everything.
So, what was the best part of Punta Leona?
Oh, leaving. Cutting off that armband.
Alright, so a lot of people who have been coming in here have been saying stuff about the whole Crizzy craze. What do you have to say about it, since you're directly involved in the matter?
I don't know. It's what it is.
What is it?
It's there.
Okay, McNaughton.
Great.
You didn't get to go to the embassy with us, but how was getting your passport in Chicago and flying out with us?
It really sucked. Just driving 5 hours out there and 5 hours back. But it was worth it just so I could go on this trip. Otherwise, I wouldn't be able to.
What's the most annoying part of your squeak?
I don't know. I personally don't think it's annoying. It's just a natural reaction. But people find it annoying or weird.
Alright, will you sing part of our trip song?
I don't know all the words like Chris and Lizzie do, but carry on my wayward son. Blah blah. Don't you cry no more. Do 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 do. Okay, I'm done.
Alright. What have some of the highlights of the trip been for you?
Definitely one of my favorite things was playing the soccer game with the local Ticos and receiving some Tico touch. But the zip lining was awesome, and so was the horseback riding and kayaking.
What's the Tico touch?
Well, it's from local Ticos that, get a little close and personal, up close and personal.
What's the most dangerous thing you did on this trip?
Probably the waterfall hike when we decided that we're going to try to find the extra path to make a loop around in Finca Flora, and we kind of were excavating the waterfall, and I almost slid down a couple times, and I did fall. But I think Stephanie fell more than me.
So, are you tall enough to reach the counter in Costa Rica?
Yes, I'm tall enough. And Emily's shorter, and I just get made fun of more.
Who's the biggest chigger on the strip?
I think everybody's a big chigger for making fun of my squeaking.
So what do you think of Crizzy?
Crizzy's cute for now. I'm jealous. No, you get a very romantic setting to ask someone out is on a beach under the stars next to the ocean, so good beginnings. I hope there's good ends.
Will you squeak for the camera?
There you go.
Okay, Joel. What was the best part of our trip to the embassy?
It was comforting in the beginning to see that we weren't alone, and our uneasiness with U.S. policy, actual or otherwise, in regards to CAFTA.
How will CAFTA solve everyone's problems?
Well, by making it possible for more U.S. businesses to sell their goods to Costa Rica so that Costa Rica can sort of free itself up to specialize in what it's best at, then Costa Rica will become even more dependent on the U.S. economy, essentially becoming even more of a U.S. bitch. So that any time that the big U.S. companies decide they need a little bit of budget cutting and they do something to Costa Rica, then because the Costa Rican economy will be so one-sided, this is if things develop as they would be intended to do under CAFTA, then the economic repercussions through Costa Rica, going through the various levels, could be much more severe than they would have to be if a more balanced system was in place. Carry on, my wayward son. There'll be peace when you are done. Lay your weary head to rest. Don't you cry no more.
For you, what have been the highlights of the trip?
Well, by far my favorite portion of the trip was that spent in Finca de Flor. Getting to work on the farm was awesome because not only did we get to learn some of the actual technicalities as far as how sustainable development is operated and how it's possible for it to work and be successful and do some good even in the face of a culture where the capitalist economic philosophy is rapidly taking over and preventing that kind of thing from taking too much hold. Besides that, there was just being exposed to the whole philosophy of it, because all the people on the farm really believed that what they were doing was the right thing, and it was very easy to see why they believed it. And I found myself, and I think a lot of other people on this trip, found themselves agreeing with their philosophy and seeing how the kind of lifestyle that they were creating for themselves was something in many ways much more favorable than the more mainstream. There was some great hiking. I mean, and you have to understand, we're in Costa Rica here, so we're talking about landscape, flora and fauna that are aboriginal to this place, but totally alien and exotic to most, if not all of us. So I found myself awestruck with the beauty of the land, and some of the hikes that various members of our group took through the mountains and over the waterfalls and whatnot were truly remarkable Zen experiences. As we were setting out on the hike, just going down the beginning of the path, we noticed an armadillo, like a set of armor from an armadillo that had passed away, and all the flesh was gone. It was just the shell sitting there, like the tail and the back armor just sitting there in the path. And we all thought it looked really cool. So we remembered that it was there, and on the way back, I picked it up and brought it back to just outside of the guy's hut where I rinsed it off. When I rinsed all the mud off, I noticed that there was, in fact, still some meat clinging to the inside of the tail. And I thought, maybe this wouldn't make such a good souvenir. So I left it on the porch to dry out, thinking maybe even if the tail wasn't any good, I could keep the shell. And apparently, this is according to Max, and I guess a couple other people, it had rather an unpleasant smell about it, though I never detected it myself. Other people swore that it did. So Max gave me a WTF for bringing that in, and then at that point, the obvious thing for me to do was just to take it back into the woods and dispose of it. But I didn't do that for a number of days. In fact, when I went to do it, it was like a race between me and Max, and he got there first, and he took it out into the woods. And so he gave me a second WTF just for not taking it back right away, because I waited a few days.
Alright, what's chigger?
Chigger? Well, officially, a chigger is a tiny insect, barely visible, if at all visible, that gets into your clothes and irritates the hell out of you. But really, as we all know, chigger is any member of our group that annoys any other member of our group and can be called a chigger by the person that's being annoyed. And it can sort of be a temporary title for that person, at least during the span of their being annoying to the other person. I was rooming, you have to understand, this entire trip with the only other guys. There were 4 of us: myself, Maxwell, Alan, Alexander, John Cameron, Christopher Riggs, and Jeffrey Iverson. And I was the only one of the 4 that had not, and still have not, seen the movie The Big Lebowski. And they've been quoting it the entire trip. And I basically have the entire script committed to memory, even though I've never seen it, just from them quoting it constantly. Punta Leone, or as many of us refer to it, Stalag Leone, left a truly lasting impression on us. In fact, I still sometimes feel, or imagine that I feel, pressure around my right wrist, and I have to put my hand there and touch to reassure myself that I am in fact freed of the plastic cuff that was temporarily branded and did in fact cut quite severely into my flesh, although it's rather healed now. I doubt if I could show it to you. But during the course of our stay there, we had probably the best time we've had this whole trip. I think everybody felt that that place was truly awesome. It was just such a rich embodiment of Costa Rican culture that we all felt that we'd truly been welcomed into the country, welcomed to the jungle, as it were, as the band Guns N' Roses so aptly put it. I mean, we had the beach, which was okay, but much cooler with the man-made structures that housed all of the artificial entertainments to, employ the time of the numb-minded tourists who could spend their time in such a worthwhile way there. It was a beautiful thing.
Alright, well, what have the highlights of the trip been?
Highlights of the trip? I would say working on the farm, experiencing Monte Verde, and visiting the national parks and seeing conservation in action in Costa Rica has been very fulfilling.
I'm loving it.
See, when we were at the last place we stayed at, Punta Leona, we found out that through every meal, not only was the food recycled, and this means, we had the same thing for breakfast as lunch and dinner the next day. Not only that, but every meal had a special coating of this red sauce that they put on some kind of meat dish. We guessed that the sauce was made like 10 years ago and just kept in a vat and put on every meal. So I've actually really enjoyed hanging out with Chris and Joel and Jeff in a room. Sad to see Shank leave, but it's been a fun conference, or fun whatever this is. And well, here's my quote. I've had a chance to use it, so I'm going to say it now. Next year I have AP English, and I've known since like whatever year it's been, to read. And next year, Mr. Chisnell or Miss Gutierrez won't teach me anything new in reading, just give me a few new books. But up to a week ago, I didn't know how to build a ditch or work on a farm, so this has been a good trip. Learned a lot.
The food, although we all complain about it, it actually was better than I expected it to be. And I don't know, it's been okay, I guess.
How's the pizza tonight?
Pizza was awesome. The pizza was awesome.
What have some of the highlights of the trip been for you?
I liked a lot of things on the trip. Leaving the farm was nice. I hated the farm. But after that, the sky trek was really cool. And horseback riding was nice, relaxing. And I liked the kayaking, that was cool. At the farm, there were a lot of bugs. And when Max and all the boys were trying to help us get all the bugs out, I said that the bugs were going to eat me and eat all of us. And they gave me one for that. But then Francisco later said, when a bug was on him, "So you want to eat me?" And he slapped it. He wouldn't let it eat him. So I don't think he deserved it.
Can you tell us some stories from the trip?
Stories from the trip? There are a lot of stories from this trip. Let's see. If I have to hear Carry On one more time, I don't know what I'm going to do. I've heard that song way too many times. And Francisco's singing and Chisnell's jokes have just been unforgettable, I guess, but pretty funny. What else? It's been really cool to see Lizzie and Chris get together. That's been pretty cool. Took him long enough. Ew! But, yeah. There's been too many stories to go through, really. I don't agree with it.
Alright, who's the biggest chigger on this trip?
The biggest chigger? Overall, I think the biggest chigger has been Chisnell, for sure. With all his jokes and just everything combined, he's a big chigger. He's a funny chigger. Well, the trip's been really cool. I'm glad I came. It's been an experience. My first plane ride was awesome.
Alright, what was the best part of our trip to the embassy?
Definitely the portrait of Dick Cheney.
Can you show us what that looks like as best as you can?
Something along the lines of something like that, but I have no idea how that would do. But he's a charming guy, the vice president.
What's the best part of our trip? Can you sing part of our trip song for us?
Welcome to the jungle, we got fun and games.
How about part of Carry On, or My Wayward Son?
No, I hate that song.
Alright, can you tell us about some of the highlights of the trip for you?
Okay, Monteverde was really cool. And the horseback riding and the zip lines, I really liked that. But I mean, this was all a really cool trip.
Who's the biggest chigger on this trip?
All of us have been guilty of chigger activities at one point or another. I'm not going to deny that. But I'd have to say that probably it was the people in charge of Punta Leona.
How was the food at Punta Leona?
Depressingly mediocre.
Alright, is there anything else you'd like to add on about your overall experience with the trip?
It was an awesome place, Costa Rica.
And on our first day in picking the fort, we encountered these waterfalls, and I said, crikey, these are the most dangerous waterfalls in all of Costa Rica. It was amazing. They were big, and the water came crashing down, and it almost killed us. And on the second day, we saw these alligators, and I was like, Blimey, these are the most dangerous crocodiles in all of Africa. It was amazing. One of them came and chucked at me, but I grabbed his hand and I was like, oh, ah, ah, ah. It was amazing. Ah.
Anything to say that no one else already said?
All right, Stephanie. What was the best part of the trip to the embassy?
The best part of the trip to the embassy was the guy in the blue shirt. I just want to say that this has been really, really fun, and I was really, really apprehensive about going on this trip. I really wanted to see Costa Rica.
Really?
But no. But like, you're not letting me finish here. I didn't really feel like I had like very good friends in the beginning. Like I didn't really feel like I knew anyone, and I thought it might be kind of a rough trip. But I've made really good friends with all of you guys, and I really like you, all of you as a group, and it's just been so much fun. And that's it.
Well, thank you very much for the interview.
Okay. 1, 2, 3.
Oh, hail the pillow bitch, the pillow bitch, the pillow bitch. All hail the pillow bitch, the pillow bitch.
Like that.
Us.